if this continues, are we going to be fighting for our lives? Definitely introverted, loner type of person. What I've learned is that act now, or you might just never get another shot to do it. Hey y'all, it's Blake. Welcome to this video. It's probably pretty obvious to some that I'm not in Guam anymore. This room might look familiar, and right now I'm back in Texas. So I just kind of wanted to get into that because yesterday I sat down and I started filming and I was vlogging, and I was like, wait, they don't even know where I am or that I left or any of that. So for the last 6 months, I've been living in Guam, which is a US territory. Last year in November, I got married, and my husband is in the military, and so he was and is stationed in Guam. So after we got married, which he left, he was already in Guam. The summer of last year, I went to Guam to visit him, and we were just dating at the time. We got engaged, and then I came back and we started planning the wedding and had the wedding November 19th. That was also around Thanksgiving time. We had a wedding, and then the next weekend was Thanksgiving. And then December 1st, I flew out to Guam to live. I packed, I don't know, I think I had like 3 or 4 suitcases. So originally I had a plan to like, we would get married, he'd go back, and I would tie up some loose ends that I had here, because there wasn't a really feasible way to get to completely move my entire life to Guam. It's just so far away, and shipping a lot of that stuff was just going to be so expensive, and we wouldn't be in Guam forever. So I was going to kind of hold out. But when the time came, we thought it was best that I just go ahead and go. And so I just packed what I could in a couple of suitcases and then started my new life in Guam. June 1st made 6 months. Started my new life as newly married, living on an island. And I kind of did a few vlogs earlier in that time. But ever since I got married, ever since I moved, it was just kind of like relearning. I was learning a lot of new things, like in a new position and role in life. And so I was trying to do what I had been doing with work. And I don't know, something about my job with content creation is kind of like, you can either, it's like kind of set, or it can be about, constantly moving. And I feel like mine was kind of about something set, which was my natural hair for the most part, and just kind of making those kind of like beauty hair content. And so once my life was different, I found it hard to show up to do those things. There was just like a lot of different things I wasn't doing. I didn't have the same kind of life that I had before. And so for the last 6 months since getting married and just being in a new role in my life, I found it hard to make the same kind of content that I had in the past. And for the last couple of years, I've just been struggling with that because my interests have changed. Just honestly, it's just that I've been growing up at the same time. So I started making YouTube videos when I was 13. It was just for fun. It was just a hobby. I didn't start taking it seriously or really understand that it could be a job for me. And it didn't start being a job until 2019. So in 2019, I was 19 years old, and I'm gonna turn 24 next month. And I don't know about y'all, but I know a lot of y'all are like my age or older, so I'm sure you understand the jump. 19 to 24 is just completely different. Like, I'm mid-20s. I'm like the last chance to say early 20s, but mid-20s, and I'm just thinking about life so much different than I was at 19. And so I referenced 19 years old because that's kind of when my YouTube channel and just like my online presence blew up and kind of solidified my area and where I was going to be, which was more about my hair, my style, and things like that at the forefront. I shared a lot of things, but at the forefront, it was really about my hair. And if I'm like talked about or referenced or reposted, it's about my hair. People know me for my hair. So I grappled with that for a long time because I enjoyed it, but then I was like, I'm not all hair. And then I kind of was struggling for a long time for like the last couple of years. Maybe after the first year, I just started to be like, what about all the other stuff? Like, and I tried sharing some of those. And like I said, the struggles with making the content wasn't so much like whether or not people liked it or not, but really just about me and growing up, and just literally growing up. Yeah, so I've been doing this job since I was a teenager, a late teenager, but 18 and 19 years old, and it's just different now. Like, I just don't really have any other way to describe it other than life is different, and I've been trying to not beat myself up for changing. So I kind of touched on that in my last video where I talked about how my life has changed since marriage and moving to an island, and that kind of jump started what's next for me kind of on this channel and talking to y'all, because I've talked about it a little bit on my podcast, but I know my podcast is more about creativity, and so I've talked about like my life as a creative and artist and things like that, but I haven't really touched on it here. That's what's been happening this last 6 months, and why I've just been struggling with work, kind of. I could say, like, personal life, amazing, best ever. Like, my life has been going so great. I'm so grateful for my life. I love my life, and I have not always been able to say that. But work wise, it kind of flipped. Like, I used to leave my life and to do this YouTube thing or do the YouTube to get away from my life in a way. And now it's like, I love my life. Like, I don't need YouTube like I did before. I don't need it in the same ways. And so I am trying to reposition it in my life, like see how it refits, like refresh it, basically just completely refresh what I call work and what YouTube and making content means to me, because it means a lot. It's something that I love to do. I'm really good at it. I'm knowledgeable, and so I've wanted to like maybe move on or try something different, but I always feel called back to it, and I honestly do believe it's been for me and is. And it's just pivoting. Like, that's just normal, change, pivoting, refreshing, rebrand, and come back to life, die and come back to life all the time. And so I kind of think that's what is happening with me. So I'm trying to overheat. It's a little warm. I had to turn the AC off because it's too loud. That's kind of like a little bit of backstory if you just didn't know, like why I moved to Guam. I moved to Guam because I got married and my husband is in the military, and that's where he was. And I was along for the adventure. I was having a lot of fun. I really enjoyed, and I've learned a lot from island life. So at the end of May, it was like the last couple of weeks, and there was like a storm watch we had. I think the typhoon officially hit May 25th or the 26th, one of those days. I had it in my planner, but I don't have it with me. And so for the days before, we were prepping, getting food, water, candles, flashlights. I didn't know what to expect. I had never lived through a hurricane. So my husband has been through hurricanes, so he kind of had an idea. I had no idea. But if you didn't know, a typhoon and a hurricane are the same thing. They just happen at different parts of the world, so they have different names. Of course, the island of Guam is very familiar with these kind of storms, so everything was, they had emergency contacting, like through text message. They were telling us we were on lockdown about like a day before. Up until the day of the storm, everything was fine. You could progressively see day by day that the storm was coming. The weather was just getting more gloomy. And so when it finally came, it was just a lot of wind. When the storm came, we were like, okay, we made it through. It happened overnight, so most of it I was asleep for. When we woke up to see like what the storm had done, it was very crazy. So Guam is an island, tropical, green, lush. After that storm, there was nothing left on the trees at all. It was just like brown. It had completely switched. So we ended up losing power and water, and for like the day of and the day after, it was kind of on and off. And then after that, it had completely got off. Our building did have generators, but they were having issues with the generators for a couple of days, and they were continuously working on fixing it every day to get the building up and running. And so after the storm hit, it's really the aftermath that was the craziest part. So some people had lost roofs. Like I said, all the greenery and plant life was just brown. All the leaves were gone. Trees had uprooted from the ground. Power and water was out across the entire island. Of course, all the businesses were closed. Gas was very hard to come by. There were miles and miles long gas lines that we stood in. Food was sparse, you know, because everyone had prepped. So it was very much like, now we have to, the island is now has to come back from the storm. It's kind of like the storm is just like that one day or like that one period of time, a couple days maybe max. But the aftermath and coming back from it is the most impactful part, because that's going to take, it's taking weeks and weeks and weeks. So we had lost power and water, and it was coming up on a week. As the days were going by, I'm not gonna lie, like I did have some feelings of like, I got kind of a little scared because there was no power, no water. We couldn't cook food, couldn't bathe with water. We had to use our water bottles, and it was like, if this continues, are we going to be fighting for our lives? Like, how are we going to get anywhere? They barely have gas. Now that's me. I hadn't lived through anything like that, so I'm probably thinking worse than others, but that is what crossed my mind. So when it came down to it, I was in the middle of a contract, a brand partnership, and I could not work. There was no power and there was no water. I couldn't work, and I needed to finish the contract. We ended up getting a plane ticket. Commercial flights didn't open up until May 31st, and I got a ticket for the 1st of June. We came to the conclusion that I should go ahead and go, and it wouldn't be that much time because we were already preparing to leave Guam and go to our next destination, which was back to Texas in October. So we already were like ready to kind of go, like anticipating leaving. We were talking about our packing plan and preparing to leave anyway. So we're like, you go, I can tie up those loose ends that I didn't get to do, finish my work, because I had a deadline that I couldn't go past June 30th. So I had to get that done, and waiting it out was just going to be kind of iffy. So I ended up leaving, and it wasn't the easiest. It wasn't that bad though. I definitely thought I was going to cry, but I did fine because I was leaving with a purpose. I had needed to get stuff done. And so yeah, now I'm back. It's actually interesting because on the flight there, my first flight from Guam back to Texas, usually have 2 connections. So I fly from Guam to Hawaii, and then I did Hawaii to Houston this time, and then Houston to Dallas. I've done Dallas to Denver, Dallas to San Francisco, and then to Hawaii and the Guam. But yeah, anyway. But on my first flight there, I met another young lady, and she had her 3-month-old baby with her, and she was also a military spouse, and she was leaving for the same reasons. She was in a bad living situation, and she had her newborn baby, and they just needed to get to better. And we both had like conflicting feelings about leaving our husbands and just like the situation, but again, we had reasons to. She had her baby, I had to finish my work. I ended up leaving, and now I'm back here. I've been here for about 2 weeks now. It's kind of going by fast. I got here on the 1st, it's the 15th, so yeah, 2 weeks. And of course my family was very happy that I was safe and sound and back. And things in Guam have gotten better. So like I said, we live in an apartment building, so we were climbing over 10 flights of stairs. But the day that I left, they had got the elevators back working. So that was a plus because I had 2 70-pound bags. And then a couple days after, they got the generators off the generators and back onto, I guess, normal power lines or something like that. And then while I was still there, they got a kind of water system where they have trucks filling up the water manually, and they would turn on the water for a couple, like an hour in the afternoon, an hour in the evening, or 1 hour, 2 hours out of the day, basically. I'm looking forward to officially moving at the same time that we had planned to in October. Yeah, I'm just here a little bit earlier. Now that I'm done with the work stuff, I can work on getting my things packed up so we can move, because we won't be living in the same area that I have lived in Texas. I'm going to a different city in Texas, so I still need to pack up and move. Thankfully, my storage unit, everything is packed up in boxes, so I'm gonna leave that as it is, and just when it's time to move, take a U-Haul, empty that out. Yeah, basically taking care of stuff. That's what the next couple of weeks are gonna be about. And then I have my birthday at the end of July. Thankfully, we're all good, we're all healthy, we're all safe, and just, making it through. As for my plans for the summer, because things have changed. I was so excited for kind of like the summer in Guam. It's always warm there, but the summer months bombed, but of course completely out of my control, everyone's control. We had plans on doing some things and of course just showing y'all more, but as far as I know now, I won't be returning, so that's just kind of changed. So now I'm like, well, what am I gonna do for the summer now, because I don't want to take it like sad. It can be flipped, you know. I get to spend one last summer for the foreseeable future in my favorite city, which is Dallas, Texas, and my hometown with my family, and have fun, because I love Dallas so much. Just trying to like live a little bit more. I will say I don't have regrets, but I don't have any regrets, but I learned that I don't seize the moment enough. I was like planning to do something, waiting for the right moment, and I missed it basically. So what I've learned is that act now, or you might just never get another shot to do it. One question that y'all had was, why did I move to Guam? And I did mention that before. Got married, husband's in the military, he was in Guam, moved to Guam. How long will I be there? Originally I was going to be there from December to like October, and so it would have been right under a year, and then we would have been back in Texas, but now it's 6 months and I'm back in Texas. Another question was, do I miss Texas? And surprisingly, I was doing very well. I didn't really get homesick. I would say I probably didn't start missing kind of just like the States, just like a little bit familiar environment until right at like May, like last month, but I was still enjoying it a lot. Next question y'all had was, what is Guam like? Very much like island life, tropical, no highways, all streets, roads. You can see the water everywhere. I know our view from where we were, I'm just looking at the ocean. It wasn't that much culture shock, if any, because it is a U.S. territory, so they abide by like U.S. standards and rules, and for the most part, but they still held to their own like culture at the roots and stuff like that. So all the names of the places there are villages. They're villages in Guam. Hearing like the native language, being around, they were like tourists, Asian tourists, like Japanese, Chinese, Korean tourists, like being around like different people was very interesting. It didn't feel different because they had a lot of like regular American restaurants, and they had like the Ross, the Kmart and stuff like that. And driving was the same, currency was the same, everyone spoke English. So it wasn't like culture shock or anything, but it did feel like it was a much slower pace, and I enjoyed that so much. Something that I might say has done like wonders for my mindset about life in general, and just like the speed and pace and just like how to take life. I think it's calmed me down a lot. Just like mellowed me out. Like I don't stress as much, and I just kind of feel like I have all the time in the world, whether I truly do or don't, but like I'm just not in a rush as much. I give myself a lot more grace when it comes to time and like getting things done, because I'm not in a rush. Differences between the States and Guam, so I kind of touched on that, but I would say the biggest difference is the pace of life. Everything is just so casual there because you're just by the water all the time. The air is different. So as soon as I got on the plane, my nose was starting so bad. It just got so dried out. The humidity and just being by the water, the air is so moist. And so now being back, I'm like, it's so dry and hot in Texas. I never really realized because I hadn't been anywhere else. But I actually really liked that. I thought I didn't like the humidity, but the dry, hot heat is something to get used to again. I really enjoy like consistent 80-degree weather. Transitions and struggles with moving. I had a little bit of tough time right at the beginning when I had just moved and I was like, I just packed up my life in 3 suitcases and now I'm just here. Like, I don't have my studio, I don't have my car. Like, I just gave up everything to move to an island. And my original thinking when doing all of that was that I was, you know, how many opportunities would you in a lifetime do you get to like completely change your life like that and experience something different? And so I was thinking of it as an adventure, like just going with where life was taking me, and I wanted to truly enjoy it. So once everything was said and done, I was like, oh my gosh, like I just got rid of everything, up and left everything. And so because I'm such a busybody kind of, like always being in something, I like all my hobbies, I like to do stuff, and I didn't have any of my like crafting and stuff like that. I felt a little antsy in that way. But I found places I found the craft stores, I found all the places that have, you know, some art supplies, some yarn, and then everything was good again. I got my room set up, so I had a place to work, and ever since then, it was great, smooth sailing. Another question someone asked was, why didn't I take my Jeep? So you can ship a car, I know, but it just, I was paying, like I financed the Jeep. And so I was paying on it monthly, and then to ship it would have been thousands of dollars more, and then I'd have to ship it back again in less than a year, and on more thousands of dollars more. And you might ask, like, can't the military do that for you, blah blah blah? And there's just like stipulations. So we weren't married when he originally went there, so it doesn't count, you know. So I wouldn't have been able to do it like through the military. I would have had to do it on my own, and because I didn't go, I don't think it would have been able to come back. I don't think. And so I think there was also, when I researched it, it was like some rules and regulations on how you could ship a car that was being financed, that had like a lien on it, didn't completely own the car. So it just would have been like way more money. The Jeep was already like a lot of money, and then to be putting it on, like shipping it to and from, just didn't sound smart to me. And I was ready to like immerse myself completely in the life, so I was like, whatever. And I actually sold the Jeep the day before I got on the plane, and I was able to sell it for more than I had left to pay on it, so I made a little money back. Has Guam affected my personal style? So I think it definitely did. I called myself kind of like a beach bum. Everything was just so casual. There was nothing to really dress up for. I was just, you know, free flowing. And I kind of really fell in love with a bohemian style. I already kind of had a boho-esque. After being there, I pegged that as like my style. No matter where I'll go, I'll always have bohemian, boho inspiration. And I love the like boho style now. I would say before then, I was still kind of figuring it out, and now I love the comfy casual aspects of it, but I did miss dressing up. We still dressed up, you know, like when we went out, dates and events and stuff like that, but it just wasn't the same kind of level. Like Dallas level dressing up is completely different than Guam level dressing up. Like there was places we would dress up and other people just wouldn't be, because you didn't have to be. Did I make friends? So I made some connections with other military wives there. Outside of the military, no, I didn't really meet anyone, but definitely made new connections through my husband being in the military, and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Learned a lot about just kind of like how that life is for like the families and the wives, the spouses in the military. It was definitely something to learn, and is still just like how that works, because I am not a person that is into like group setting. Like I wouldn't be a person to like join the military. I'm not that kind of person. So to be surrounded by people who are like, it's all about taking care of each other, you know, because you'll be in all these different places all over the world, and all you have is the people that are there in it with you. So just kind of experienced that was a big difference, and learning how to navigate that, because I'm not the biggest like friend person. Definitely introverted, loner type of person. The last thing was distance from friends and family. How did that affect me? From friends, And family, I still talk to my dad on a weekly basis. I talk to my mom nearly every day. And my family would do like group FaceTime calls weekly, and I used to catch them, but I kind of stopped being able to catch them just because of the time difference. But for the most part, I was still able to communicate and talk with my parents, my nanny. Yeah, I was still able to communicate, but like I said earlier, I didn't really feel that homesick. I had never left. I was just enjoying life, you know. But I know my parents definitely miss having me like close by, being so far away. There was a feeling of like helplessness, you know, like if something happens, like, you know, how do you, you know, what are you gonna do? But obviously now it's like, even though the plane ticket is expensive, you're still gonna go buy the plane ticket and get out of there or go there or something like that. And then one downside also is that my mom was gonna visit us literally right at this time, early June, and so the typhoon hit right before that, and we were kind of playing it by ear, and then I ended up coming back. But she was gonna visit, and we were gonna have like fun drawing and painting all of the different scenery and of Guam. So kind of sad about that, but maybe we'll plan another trip or something. Lastly, just wanted to thank you guys for all of your support and kind words on the matter. I know I posted it on Instagram and the YouTube community, and you guys were so kind. So thank you for your prayers and your kind words and just your continued support for me and my inconsistent self. I hold out hope for myself that one day I like get it right, like get it how I imagine I can be. But that's all I have for y'all today. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all in the next one.